Yeah, you know, it's like boom, and then.
Anyways, I'll calm down here. See what I mean, Becky didn't call me back also.
Yeah.
That's
Go home, and good luck to you.
Thanks, Amy. I couldn't. I know, I just. It's
Yeah, we're a couple weeks away now, right?
Yep. Yeah. It's only years ago, like, Chuck is often like other people are very committed to it. Okay. Oh, we're not sure.
Kidding me. It's real one. I know it's real. It was weird time. Totally fine.
Well, it's not.
Always
Told me that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yesterday would have been great.
And then come to find out that's not true. Oh, I'm trying. Full rush.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's done.
Oh.
That's what I mean, so I. You know, that's gonna be.
And we've mentioned is on. All the time. These three can't do that. Just
Good and yourself? Good.
all the. And then it's as close as.
So the, that's fine, I'll.
For now.
Yeah.
I got good.
Hour for probation.
Yeah.
Control. I don't. I gotta look it up. That's just me. What's the winter?
Yeah.
Right on, I can look here.
That's my year. I have so many.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Got them out of there a little early, so. Yeah, like, it's like, not like gossip train. Yeah. I'll wait until I fly out there. Yeah, there's a. Try to do
I currently need to sit down now. I mean, that's against part of my presentation. Now, why I'm all I see is that's. And I know that I've asked. I don't know how long. And I don't want to. But clearly it's. And so. Again, you know, I mean,
my first is.
all my turn.
Yeah. So. In the minute. Loiter outside. Yeah, I mean. I know. Morning, how are you? Good thing.
You got to take all these acres. Then I'm.
Yes.
And that's part of what I'm
I
trying to
work
do.
on it today.
So now you're saying, oh, Jews, Joe.
Yeah.
That doesn't.
Watching it, say,
And the value of
That way, like, oh.
That's with your leg.
Yeah, oh, yeah, every time. Yep. Every time.
That's what I do.
Very quiet. And then I just kind of look and I sort of focus on what you're saying.
Yeah.
Wait, what you What?
I didn't even see your. So awesome.
Cut it off.
Well, and so I wasn't able to open it. I already started it. Just let the paper work.
Well, we decided just to.
I ate the. Send it out. Yeah, our.
Yeah, WOW has so many different meanings.
So.
You have, wow. This comes up like, starter year. Of course, it's more.
Good.
How you doing?
Wow.
I've had a night to have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll talk now. So like, your daughter's saying really nice me about that,
Things are wrong.
Oh.
like.
That's. I was leaving this
Oh.
morning.
Breathing or not?
For that, I'm pretty good on.
Okay, yeah, so then I get. There we go. That's how we did. Kind of irritating them. But none of that.
Yeah, that's.
Why I'm getting this little explanation.
Yeah.
My outlook.
Right.
And then when I come over here,
What's it challenge?
paving.
to ask her if she wants us to start the meeting.
Are you connected?
You want us to start or should we wait?
Right.
Go ahead. Okay. All right, I guess we're starting. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the April meeting of the Airport Commission. I've seen Michelle, if you want to start with the roll call.
Hunsinger, Westergaard,
Here.
Carlson,
Here.
Cunningham,
Here.
Donaldin,
Here.
Manclis, absent, Vasconcelos,
Here.
Conklin, Morales.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Kelly. I guess next we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from last month's meeting. Everybody read them?
I move to.
Madam Chair, we skipped over recognition.
I did.
Sorry.
All right, you have a recognition.
We do have recognition. And today's recognition is a little bit different because I am going to recognize all of the members of our airport commission. We're gonna celebrate you today. And I'm gonna say just a couple words about the role of the commission. You know, the commission is advisory. You provide us insight and guidance based on your knowledge and expertise. Some of you have been on the commission for a very long time. I think Meg is our most senior member. I don't know how many years you've been on the commission, Meg.
15 or
I was gonna say, but I've been here 12 and you've been on the commission the entire time. So 15, 16 years is a lot of experience. And then we have other members who are brand new, like General Donlin and Carrie, and then people who've been here, and John, and then others, and Miles, of course, and Jordan, who's our commission liaison to council, and then we have others who've been here kind of a more of a medium term, but regardless of whether you've been here for 15 years or 5 or even 5 months, your input is really valuable to us, and you give us a perspective from whatever industry you're in, whether it's the Guard, travel and tourism, general aviation, the business community. Everybody has a very specific function and role, and we really appreciate what you do. You volunteer, you get maybe a cup of coffee for your time, and
To get a bakery item.
we used to get a bakery item and then stupid COVID. So we don't do that anymore, but anyway, I do want to thank you and just say that you contribute to the airport in so many different ways. And when I think about some of the different things that we've had commissioners participate in, from the master plan to reviewing requests for proposals, and I know we have some of you volunteering to serve on our selection committees. I really appreciate the guidance and the support that you offer. So with that, I will present these certificates on behalf of the mayor and the city of Boise. Miles, Jamie, Meg, and maybe at the end of commission, maybe we can just all get together and take a picture, so that way we can post it. Hurry. Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. I think I can. I think I can speak for all of us. It's a pleasure to serve. You know, it's especially at the time of growth and great leadership. So thank you for the record. Okay, I think maybe we'll move now on to the approval.
Okay, I move to approve. Yes.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Donaldin, you cannot second because you were not at the last meeting.
Oh, okay.
30 seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. You got that down? I think the next one is any unfinished business, and I don't see any items on the agenda for unfinished business, so we can move on to Rebecca, if you're ready for the report.
I am so close. I am waiting for my Zoom meeting to launch, and if this does not work, we have hard copies.
Okay, great.
It's thinking very quickly, I hope. So it's connected to the internet, but it was not syncing to the OneDrive, so. Now my Zoom is installing updates.
Okay.
That's the way that it always works.
Do you want to, maybe we can switch and do some comments from commissioners first?
If you are prepared to comment, that would be wonderful.
We'll allow Zoom to do its magic while we.
It's very close.
Yeah.
All right. Could be the magic sauce right here. Or not. Oh, it's connecting.
Okay, perfect. Well, then we'll just wait.
Apologies. Okay, I'm in. All right. And now I will share my screen. Love it when this works. Right. Thank you. Hopefully that's the most difficult part of the meeting. So, again, thank you all for being here today. There's a few things that I wanted to share. We have had an incredibly busy month at the Boise airport. This is the time of year that we're really closely monitoring what's happening. Well, actually, normally this would not be the time of year that we're monitoring what's happening in the federal government. If the federal government worked as intended, I would say that we would have passed budget bills in time for the beginning of the fiscal year, which was in October, but we all know how that happened. And things have not worked as intended in Congress, and in the Senate. So in the House and the Senate. So we recently, have been tracking the FAA reauthorization bill. We're looking at an increase in funding, and reform as part of the airport improvement program, which is the primary way that we receive FAA grant funds. Both the House and the Senate bills reflect an increase in funding for the airport improvement program, $4 billion annually, as well as extending eligibility to include some additional capital projects. And of course, we are always asking that Congress pass a provision that would modernize the passenger facility charge, which is the fee that gets charged on the airline ticket, so we can invest in airport infrastructure. That probably will not go anywhere, but I wanted to at least note that it is a priority for airports. The fee is $4.50 per segment, up to 2 segments. So it's a really important funding mechanism for the airport. It's something that we'll use to fund capital equipment. We'll use it to fund our share of the FAA grants for runway improvements, and it will be a source of funding for the public areas of the terminal when we get to the actual construction. There's also a couple of environmental provisions in the FAA reauthorization. One that we're tracking very closely is the transition to what we call a fluorine-free foam. There's a chemical in our firefighting foam that has been determined to be hazardous. And so we are required to use the specific foam by FAA. We are transitioning away from that as EPA declares it a carcinogen. And so we're hoping that FAA will provide a national transition program for airports, so that way we're not all trying to do things differently, but rather that there's very clear guidance And then one of the other things that we're looking forward to is an expansion of the airport reduced emission plans, the VALE program, as we call it, the voluntary airport low emission. We've used that grant program several times. We use it to purchase what we call preconditioned air units, which allows aircraft to idle at the gate using preconditioned air as opposed to idling aircraft engines, which helps reduce emissions. And we also used it, you may remember, several years back to install a solar hot water heater as an example on the terminal building. So those are things that we're supporting. Department of Homeland Security, this was passed recently. It did not contain good things for airports. In fact, it lacked funding for our K-9 teams, which will cost us about an extra $202,000 a year. It also lacked funding for our law enforcement officers. We were reimbursed for a very small percentage of our law enforcement officers. I think that was about $130,000. And then TSA will actually continue to provide staffing for the exit lanes, which is a positive. We're asking them to properly resource TSA checkpoints, but the other provision that it included was aviation worker screening. I think we've talked about that before. It's a requirement that we conduct random screening of workers who are working in the terminal and subject them to security screening. And that's a new requirement for the airport, which will cost us about $380,000 a year is the additional estimate. So you can see just those three things combined, the law enforcement reimbursement being canceled, the K-9 program being canceled, combined with the requirement to do aviation worker screening, we're well over $500,000 a year, almost $750,000 a year of unexpected expenses that we're going to have to absorb and probably adjust in our rates and charges. But we're going to continue to advocate on these issues and see if we can't get some of this funding restored through another bill or another mechanism. But those are the things that we're working on from a DUC perspective. So on to happier news. On April 6th, we're going to be celebrating the 98th anniversary of the Boise Airport. And so it's hard to imagine how much things have changed in almost the last 100 years, even just the last decade. And when you think back to 98 years ago, it's important that we pause and remember how much things have changed. We didn't have to worry about the technology 98 years ago. So very exciting. And interestingly, it'll be the 100th anniversary of United Airlines in 2 years here when we celebrate our 100th anniversary at the Boise Airport. We are so close on the employee garage. By the time we have our next airport commission meeting, I predict that we won't have employees parking in our new garage. We did receive our certificate of occupancy. We're targeting mid-April. We are doing site work. As you know, the consolidated rental car facility is in the pathway of this employee parking garage. And so there's trench work and utility work that's taking place there. And so it's impacting the walkway for employees to be able to use this, but very, very soon. In fact, I get asked multiple times a day when this is going to come to fruition, and it's very close, and it'll be very exciting to see. The consolidated rental car facility, we're continuing to move forward on that. As you know, we broke ground on that in March. We're working on the foundation. We changed the access to be through Luke Street. We're working on the tower crane platform, and then the final, what we call the GMP, is the gross maximum price. So it's a contract provision with McIlvaine for the maximum price. And we're working out the final details for that final phase. So last time we were here, we talked about some of the airport hotels and the challenges that we were seeing with those properties. And we did prevail thanks to Kelly's expert legal acumen. We were successful in getting an eviction of the airport inn. We have paused temporarily on the roadway inn. The issues there were not as severe. They were still of concern, but they were not as severe as what we were seeing at the airport inn. And they have agreed tentatively to make some changes that we have requested that we think will help resolve some of the drug issues that we were seeing there. And so we're giving it some time to see if that can be successful before proceeding with an eviction, because we do recognize that an eviction is a pretty substantial action and has severe consequences. So we do want to give them an opportunity to correct the issue. So we'll be monitoring that very closely. But the airport inn, we have fenced the perimeter and we have secured the rooms by boarding the windows on the first floor, barring access to the second story. And then we've begun the process of doing an inventory of the room so we can categorize the current state of the rooms. Interestingly, the judge evicted them, but did not terminate the lease. And so there's still some ongoing legal things that we still need to address, but. Okay, so really bad news, and then some exciting fun things, and then some not so great things, and now we're back to some really exciting things. This is a little bit of a roller coaster presentation this morning, but very exciting. We are in the process of doing interviews for the design for the terminal concourse, and then the concourse A, the remodel of concourse B, and then looking at some of the other things that might be related, such as security screening expansion, curb frontage, ticket counter, all of the other components that will feed into that. And so we received 5 proposals, and we narrowed it to 4. There were 2 that were tied. So we had intended to narrow it to 3, but we narrowed it to 4 because 2 of the proposers tied. And we're doing interviews yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So by our next airport commission meeting, we should have a recommendation for you. And we should be ready to bring that to council. So it's very exciting. We do have a very thorough process. They're here, they're doing presentation for the selection panel, then they're doing a tour, and then we're doing an interactive charrette with them about how they would handle the first 100 days if they were selected. And so it's a very thorough process. I am confident we're going to get a great architect to partner with on this project, and there will be more to come. Other exciting news, we talked before about the fact that we have our concessions. We've issued a request for proposals. Proposals were due yesterday. We have not reviewed them yet, but we do have 5 proposals. So I suspect that we'll have a very good choices to make there. We have members of our airport commission who have volunteered, I believe, Commissioner Vasconcellos and Commissioner Cunningham. So thank you. It is time consuming, but it is so important, because when you think about the airport and what's important to people, I think clean restrooms is probably at the top. Ease through security is top. Parking availability, and then concessions. I mean, it's definitely in the top 5, and depending on your priorities, might vary where it falls, but it's incredibly important. And so thank you for your time in reviewing those. Amy has done a fantastic job in recruiting interest, meeting with potential, potential disadvantaged businesses, getting a reflection of our community and local brands visible at the airport as part of the proposed programs. So it will be exciting to see what comes next. And then we did have spring break while we were in the month of March, and we had sufficient parking, which made me happy because last year was a real nail biter for the spring break parking. But I will say, well, we did have sufficient parking capacity close in. It was close. We had great utilization of our parking facilities. Operations went smoothly, and we met passenger demand. We don't have numbers yet from spring break, but early indications are it looks to be on par or maybe slightly ahead of last year. I did want to touch on what we refer to as Gate 58. We've talked about this issue before with commission, but I know we have some new commissioners. So as we head into construction season, I wanted to refresh everyone as to what Gate 58 is and what the plan is for Gate 58 and the reasons that are driving some changes here in case you happen to get asked about it, because I know that some of our backcountry operators have been approaching elected officials, and it would not be surprising to me if they asked you about it as well. So the primary users of what we refer to as Gate 58 is the backcountry operators. So the people who bring when passengers fly in and then they want to fly to the backcountry, they pick them up here at the terminal and they pick them up right at what we call Gate 58, which is, you can see in this diagram, is adjacent to the car rental facility. So those cars parked there are employee parking in that diagram, which we are moving and have moved, and then the rental cars, which are parked in that area. So that's about where it is. And the building that you see there where it says gate, right by Gate 58, is the old aircraft rescue and firefighting building. So to make room for the new concourse, we have to demolish that old firefighting building. And Gate 58, as we know it, will be going away. We've been having this conversation with the backcountry operators for several years. It doesn't mean that they can't use the Boise airport. It just means they can't really be right at the front door where we're going to have commercial aircraft operations. And so we've had this conversation beginning in 2021. This was part of our master plan. It was identified in a master plan as having to relocate. We're not very far from Jackson Jet Center. They also could look at operating from one of the other FBOs. It could require them to get a shuttle. That's really for them to figure out how they want to operate. But we will be making that change, not this construction season, but next construction season. So we've given ample time so that way they can make appropriate plans for their operation. But I wanted you to have that information in case that you get asked the question, and you can always refer them back to me if you do get questions and they want to talk about it further. We talked about the consolidated rental car facility. This is more from a passenger perspective as they're returning the rental car. You can see that we've modified the route. So, and I just want to recognize we've added a number of people to our team. We recently filled a position that had been vacant for quite some time. Our airfield maintenance manager, we had 2 supervisors. We promoted Daryl Herbert, who's been with us for 11 years, from supervisor to manager of that division. He's been doing a great job. We are in the process of transitioning airfield maintenance from a Monday through Friday operation to a 7-day-a-week operation. And we're looking forward to having Daryl's leadership as we go through that process. And then we will backfill his position. So we'll have 2 supervisors and a manager overseeing our airfield operations. I won't read this to you, but you can read it. You know, I think one of the great things about the Boise airport is just the fact that we do have employees who truly care about passengers and who have the ability to show compassion, offer great customer services, and you know, just really are part of a team. And I don't think that you see this in other places. And we're really grateful for the partnership that we have here with TSA, because it does make all of the challenges that we see with funding and new regulatory requirements easier. And they really do make a difference in making our passenger experience a positive one. So February employments were up very slightly. Pretty flat, but if you remember last year, January, February, March were off the charts. We saw huge increases, double-digit gains last year, percentage increases compared to the previous year. And so we're up slightly for February. We're relatively flat, down about 1% year to date. It's early. We're projecting that airlines will be adding more capacity into the market in their schedule in the later months of the year. So I expect that we'll probably see some increases, but we could be seeing a flattening as well, which see how things go. And then I do have a couple of things and comments here on our operating revenue. You can see our top 10 operating revenue categories. Parking lot, again, that continues to increase because of the number of passengers that we're seeing parking, landing fees, and the signatory airline landing fees and rent, and the freight landing fees all are related to increases in the changes in the airline use and lease agreement that we implemented last year. And then on the operating expenses, we are seeing some increases. I think most of them are pretty self-explanatory. The personnel, it's due to increases in salary, but also because of increases in staffing and lower vacancy rates. The indirect cost is increasing to the city for many of the same reasons. Our police and fire costs are increasing as a result of the new bargaining agreement. Parking management, that's a timing issue with the transition between the old vendor and the new parking manager. On the fleet management, that increase is due to an increase in our equipment, including a new vehicle to conduct our friction testing. That's how we monitor the runway conditions. And credit card fees, again, that's due to increased usage because we're paying fees on the credit cards. And that concludes my report.
It was kind of roller coaster.
It was a roller coaster.
Moving on, I guess we'll move to commissioner comments. Bill, you want to start?
I don't really have anything. No comments from me, other than happy spring.
I echo that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's a quiet commission today. I have comments. It's very good to be back in person with you all, I think. I was on Zoom in February, not here in March, so it's great to be back. And congratulations to Daryl, and I always love to see internal promotion opportunities from the existing employees, recognizing experience and qualified, and it's a great way to build morale of all people. So congrats to him. I was gone. I was in Austria last time, and I did have the opportunity to experience that freak snowstorm that happened early in March, which delayed all flights coming in. It was bigger in Salt Lake. I was flying Salt Lake direct to Amsterdam. So there's only one of those a day. So I had the good fortune to spend the afternoon in Salt Lake and then leave the next day. These things happen. But after that, everything was great. Uneventful, beautiful country. Happy always to be home. And then I do have one question, Rebecca. Do we have any news or update around the accident that happened, the collapse of construction?
We do not have anything official. Last that we heard, we were waiting on a determination from OSHA.
Who knows how long that was?
They have up to 6 months.
Oh, wow.
So that's how long it will take.
Okay.
Up to 6 months.
So note to self, don't ask that again. Great, yes, exactly. Very good.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a similar question, as I was driving in today, and each time I go by that hangar, my heart sinks. And so I was gonna ask the same thing. Is there any update? Carrying on ask my second question. I saw on the top 10 revenues, there's employee parking revenue. Refresh my memory, do city employees get free parking?
City employees get free, city airport employees get free parking. So if you work for another department in the city, you don't get free parking, but if you actually work for the airport, you get free parking, but the other parking is related to, we're increasing the revenue, the rate, because now we have a garage. And so people can park at the garage, which will be a higher rate, or in the economy lot. So we're differentiating between, those two parking options.
So lessee employees would pay, if I went to Jackson's Jet Center, and I wanted to park up. Either Jackson's is gonna pay for me to park, or. I'm
Right,
gonna-
so if you work for Jackson's, maybe isn't the best example because they have their own parking. But if you worked, for example, one of the food and beverage providers, or if you worked for TSA or the rental car company, something in the terminal, either you pay for your parking or your employer pays for your parking. So there is a fee for that parking. And then we do charge for what we call non-base crew. So if you work for an airline, but you're not based in Boise, say you're based in Denver or San Francisco or someplace else, and you want to park at the airport, you work for an airline, but you don't work out of Boise, we charge you a different rate.
Thank you.
I had some fun out of the Boise airport last week. Was up in Alaska, flying around and keep flying, landing on glaciers and lakes. More negative 30-degree weather than the nice 60 and such we've been having here, but great to come back to the Boise airport and fly in. Always a pleasure.
Madam Chair, I have a few comments. I just want to second the recognition the director have provided today, and thank each of you for your service to the city. I know I can speak on behalf of the council and all the great things that are happening at the airport, and we're so proud of it. And a lot of that is thanks to your oversight. So really want to appreciate that. And I want to provide some recognition to Director Huff as well. About a month ago, we had a weird smell descend over East Boise. A lot of calls to non-emergency dispatch, Intermountain Gas, and wondering what this oily, gassy smell was. And there were a few different theories, and she helped us kind of nix one of those, which was someone was wondering if there was a fuel dump coming in. And so really appreciated the time and the seriousness that she took there. I had a couple other comments. For planning and zoning, we had an applicant for the old bank space here on the airport property. Looking to put in a Starbucks, and they came before the commission trying to increase the maximum amount of parking that they could provide. Concern for the number of people that will park there to wait to pick up people. And so, they noted the issue that, gas station across the street sees and that kind of stuff. And ultimately just kind of, cell phone waiting area has been on I think all of our minds for a long time. But as we take that next step, thinking about how we can help people maybe identify the Orchard exit as another primary entrance to the airport. And Director Epps talked about working with ITB to get signage and that kind of thing, which I think is important. But I also think, as you come in, if you ever drive off of Orchard onto Wright Street, or I believe that's Wright Street, there isn't a prominent welcome to Boise Airport like you see as you're coming off of Wright Street, closer to the airport, or coming off of Vista, and how we can maybe make that a more prominent entrance for all the folks coming in from the western portion to think, oh yeah, that's the exit I get off, and try to help direct people to the appropriate places to park, and so we don't have to have as much parking for these businesses, and provide more amenities. The last comment I just wanted to mention, June 3rd is Valley Rights Change Day. So for those who know, new bus routes, not a lot has changed. It's still 3 routes coming to the airport, but there will be some changes in terms of frequency and maybe stops near you. And I'll probably bring this up again in the next commission meeting if I'm here, but maybe think about over the next 2 weeks how on June 3rd you could participate in Change Day, or that week, try to pick a day, see if one of those 3 routes would work for you to get here. If you're coming here, that would be an exciting day, and just trying to to reach out to our community and help them know about what a great service that is too. And getting folks here and there. Yeah, I think when we travel, we love not having to park at the airport. So we can, the bus is great, very cheap. So those would be my comments. Thanks.
Fantastic. Always appreciate it. Thank you for bringing them. All right, I think we have, Kathleen, are you here? I'm here. We have Kathleen there. Good morning. Thank you for coming.
So I am gonna hand out hard copies of our presentation because I have been booted out of the Zoom. And so if you flip to the end of the director's presentation, there's a presentation on our bond for the consolidated rental car facility. And Kathleen's gonna walk you through that, but it is an important topic. And again, we've talked about the consolidated rental car facility multiple times. But because we have new listeners, we thought it would be worthwhile to bring it to the commission. And then I'll be presenting to council on April 9th to talk about our process for issuing revenue bonds. So apologies that we don't have it on the big screen, but you do have it here in your packet. And it starts on page 11.
Welcome. I'm Kathleen Watkins. I'm the Deputy Director of Finance and Business. You can decide for yourself whether this is the top or the bottom of the roller coaster here, but we're going to talk about the bonds that we're issuing upcoming to support our consolidated rental car center. The CONRAC, Consolidated Rental Car Center, is an enabling project to begin construction of Concourse A. And I think you've heard a lot about this, but I'm just going to go over it anyway. The CONRAC location is within walking distance of the airport, which was one of our main goals, was to make it convenient for folks. There will be passengers be able to retrieve their baggage and then go directly through a covered walkway to the rental car area. We are bonding at this point phase 1, because that's what we're building now of the project, and it will include a ready return so that they can have a place to stage their vehicles. And it's going to be 7 levels, including the rooftop, and 1,227 stalls. So that's the scope we're looking at now. There is a phase 2 that we are looking into, but that is not part of this bond. It's just something that's upcoming, and that would include a quick turnaround facility, which would then have a car wash, gas pumps, that type of thing. So, but that won't happen until at least 2027. So just an overview of bonds. We'll be issuing 30-year bonds to fund the design and construction of the rental car facility. The bonds are going to be backed solely by the customer facility charges. So that means that that is the only funding source that we will use as a backstop for that. So we have to structure the bonds and increase the CFC so that the rental car companies will have enough funding to cover their debt service and to meet all the other requirements for bonding. And because of this, we have to have signed contracts with the rental car agencies that will stipulate the obligations and when they would need to backstop pay a contingent rent to the airport in the event that they weren't able to cover. The bonds are structured with several different reserve funds because of that. Some of them protect the bondholders, of course, but then there also will be funds held in reserve that will protect then the rental car companies so that the slightest dip wouldn't cause them to have to pay extra. That's kind of an overview of the bond structure.
Kathleen, do we anticipate any of the current rental car companies looking at this and saying too much
We've been working with them for a long time. This is very common of other airports, and I believe that they're all on board. So yeah, they have.
Answer's not.
Yeah, let's go with no. I think we'll be fine. We have been talking to them for a lot, and it is very standard.
I think we are more fiscally conservative than the rental car company. So we're more hesitant to increase the CFC than they are. They would like us to build a lovely rental car facility. We would like to build one that is practical, right? And meets the needs without being over the top. So They're very supportive of this. They definitely would like to have this facility. They're anxious for us to commit to do phase 2 already. So I would say that they're on board.
So I just kind of, to give you a flavor of how this works and what we've got going on, we have a bond team full of advisors. So we have a PFM on board, which is financial management. I guess I should look that up. I'm not sure what it stands for. They're our financial advisor, and they guide the process and advocate for the airport as part of the bonding process. They're a company that does airports all over the country, so they're very familiar with structuring bonds for airports, which has its own tweaks and whatnot that they need. We also have a feasibility consultant, Lee Fisher. They're doing what we call a report of the airport consultant, which essentially they go through all our financials, they structure it, they look at it and make sure that, you know, we're safe to bond, that, you know, we'll be able to afford this in various, you know, scenarios. So they've been super helpful and have helped give us a sense of where our CFC needs to be in order to get this through and bonded. We have disclosure councils. They write up the indentures, the legal part that goes through the city council. We also have bond counsel, and they prepare a preliminary official statement for us, which describes the process. It's something that the rating companies and others use to evaluate the airport when we sell our bonds. We have an underwriter who goes out and markets and sells the bonds. That's Raymond James. And then a bunch of people from the city. Obviously, we have the city treasurer, David Hasegawa. He's been helping us. He's, you know, he will be responsible then for kind of keeping track of the bond once it's issued. Me, airport finance. We have city legal, which is Kelly. She'll be kind of looking over the final documents and getting them through the city council. And then this has been unusual in that we have to have those agreements signed by the rental cars. And so we have Rakonda, who's been on board for a couple of years now, I think, who's been working with the rental cars and structuring this and taking on the financial side of building the rental car. And they've been working with Amy. So that's kind of who we have on board, everyone. There's not a consultant in the country we haven't touched. So just a few of the key dates that are coming up. On the 9th of April, Rebecca's going to work with the city council in a workshop just to make sure, especially with the changes we've had on the city council, that they're aware of what we're doing, that we can answer any questions ahead of time. May 7th, we should have signed rental car agreements in hand by then, and we will go to the city council to ask for approval of the bonds, but also to increase our CFC. We will need to go up to $895 on August 1st. No, why do I say that every time? September 1st. And then $995 on April 1st of 2026, which is when we feel it will be opening. The date of beneficial occupancy should be around there. So they will go to $995 at that point, and that will help us to pay for the structure. And then on the 14th, the rental car agreements will go to the city council for approval, and we want those done before we actually go out and try to sell the bonds, so that the bondholders are comfortable that we have that aspect covered. And so hopefully summer of 2024, we'll be issuing our bonds. Some of the financial highlights, the total cost of the project, I put construction, but it's actually the entire cost of the project, design and construction and everything else, is $110 million. So we'll be bonding 87.7 million. That'll give us 70 million in project funds, and another 17.7 million to fill those reserves that I was speaking about, to pay for the fees, to cover capitalized interest during the construction period. And then the other 40 million we're calling PAYGO funding, which is the things that we are paying currently and have paid currently, and will continue to pay until the bond is issued out of the CFCs that we have. So that's about 40 million. We're estimating at this point total interest of 6.6%. So that should be our all-in interest rate. Fingers crossed. We continue to keep running the numbers as we go as we get closer to the bond, but things are looking pretty good right now. That will give us annual debt service of about $7 million a year that we'll need to cover for those, for the bond, for the rental cars. And then the increase to the CFC, I think I already mentioned that on August. Why do I keep saying August? I thought it was September. I need to check that. I don't know when it's changing. I think September. It'll go to $895. And then, on April 1st of 2026, it goes to $995. Just want the fiscal year to be over, maybe that's it. So then the last schedule here is just an analysis we did with CFC rates for the medium hubs around here, and you can see Boise is close to the middle, slightly closer to the top. But we do know that there's a number of airports in the same situation we're in who are out there looking at this, and they also are going to be raising their CFCs, so we'll be in good company. But that kind of gives you a sense of where we are in comparison to other airports. So I think that was all I wanted to cover. Let me know if you have any questions. If they're complicated questions, Commissioner Vasconcelos, you can email them to me. I'll run them through the team.
I do have one question, if I may.
Yes.
CFC, is that just for rental car customers, or is that for every transaction? So tickets?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, the customer facility charge is per rental day. So we started out at $1.20 about 5 years ago, and we've had to consistently raise this to afford it. But it's on the first 14 days of a rental, you pay $7.95
Per day.
per day. Yeah.
Bill, anything?
Don't encourage him.
Just, in the past, when we bond of this magnitude, we often will get questions about, why are you using my taxpayer money? Seriously.
Yeah.
And so just to let you know, obviously, there's no taxpayer money used when you bond, but it's a common misperception and it comes up.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, this is all coming from the local funds that they're paying for the facility. So.
There.
Yes.
With the 1,200 stalls with 7 levels, how does that compare to the current capacity? And is there a projection that will be used, having
Yeah,
7 levels and 1,200
I
stalls?
do believe it's used. I don't know. Do you happen to know?
There's about 400 stalls.
They only have about 400 right now.
And so there's projected need for that many.
Yeah, they believe that they will be filling it up, but I think they stage a lot of their cars at their local facility site. So this will allow them not to have to shuttle everything back and forth and to park it right there.
And phase 2, is that in the pre-planning stages, or are you, and will that be bonded as well?
So yeah, we would need to bond it. It's in the pre-planning stages currently. And so I believe they'll kind of start a preliminary design within these contracts that we're issuing. You know, it's going to give the airport the ability to decide to go forward or not go forward, or when we want to go forward with that, just based on the market and what things are looking like at that point. But yeah, but we do anticipate to go forward with that, you know, ideally in 2027. Yeah, and it should be a smaller facility. I believe they're thinking it's going to be 5 stories, 4 stories, 4 stories. Yeah, right next to it. It will be in a lot behind kind of where Jackson's is, to the north of Jackson's. There's a lot right now that is leased until 2027. Anything else? Thank you.
Okay, I think we're now on to public comments and questions. So if anybody online or in person would like to come and have a chat, you're welcome to do so now. We've just got 5 minutes per person.
I'm sure 5 people online, I'm not sure why I get one, but no hands are raised.
Okay. Guess I'll take that as a no. I think that's everything on our agenda for today. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn this meeting of the commissioner.
Second?
Second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you for coming, everyone. Good morning.
Thanks, everyone.